You have died. The after effect was death. It was the shock from my stories being eaten by the Eater of Dreams. It was quickly restored with the ability of the fourth wall, but it was difficult for it to be as perfect before it was broken. The head. I was in a half-awake state for 3 days. My consciousness only appeared and disappeared. Every time my consciousness returned, I reflected on what had happened so far. After this scenario, the flow of the story will return. During the course of the first 9 scenarios, I undermined the flow of the original novel. It ranged from saving a few people to largely changing scenarios. Of course, changing the scenarios didn't mean that the original elements would be useless. Yu Jung-hyuk had experienced over 100 life cycles. Even if the scenarios changed, there was still plenty of information I could use. Nevertheless, in order to take advantage of the large currents, there should be parts that flowed according to the existing scenario. Fortunately, the Soul Dome was a closed scenario. There was the National Convention in the middle, and there were a few butterfly effects to worry about, but the flow of the star stream is still what I remembered. Moreover, some of the characters had grown beyond what I had thought. I had enough power to drive the flow in the future. I observed the characters one by one using the third-person perspective. The first one I checked was Jung Hee-won, the Judge of Destruction. It isn't easy to control yet. My sponsor said that once I can use this perfectly, I could deal with that tentacle monster. I don't know when that could happen. Jung Hee-won muttered as she emitted white flames. She had little weight in the original novel and was the most powerful character I chose. She had the Judge of Destruction attribute from Ways of Survival and gained Uriel's Hellflame's ignition. If this continued, it wasn't strange for her to be in the top 100 strongest people in Ways of Survival, or even the top 10. Lee Hyung-sung, who was sparring with Jung Hee-won, opened his mouth. "It's getting better little by little, Hee-won-shi." "I think Hyung-sung, she has improved a lot also. Now you can cover your whole body with steel." Jung Hee-won spoke without knowing anything, but she wasn't wrong. Before the end of the Soul Dome scenario, Lee Hyung-sung started to inherit steel transformation. However, Lee Hyung-sung wasn't satisfied with his accomplishment. "I'm working hard, but there's still a long way to go to help Dokjashi." There were people who did better when they were told to keep up the good work, and that they were doing a good job. This was the case with Lee Hyung-sung. The constellation who doesn't yet have a name has sponsored 100 coins to Incarnation Lee Hyung-sung. "To Dokjashi?" The perplexed Lee Hyung-sung stuttered with wide eyes. Jung Hee-won clicked her tongue. "Wow, he truly is watching. He has the temperament of a stalker, but isn't 100 coins too stingy?" I turned my gaze to the 2 children practicing taming. The children kept commanding the mighty dragon. Shin Yu-sung felt my gaze and smiled towards the air. The constellation who doesn't yet have a name is smiling gently. In Ways of Survival, the relationship between Constellation and Incarnation was often similar to a parent and child. I never had a child, but I knew what it felt like when seeing Shin Yu-sung. It was a bond that was more solid than blood. It was really tiny and fragile, yet so precious that I didn't know what to do. Of course, not every father in the world was a good father, and not all constellations had the same mind. It was common for incarnations to be stabbed in the back by their sponsors. The second-grade evolutionary species, the Chimera dragon, let out a deep cry. It still wasn't completely obeying, but since it joined, the power of the party had shot up. It was currently a second-grade species, but if it reached first-grade or transcendence, the dragon would become a monster that even constellations were afraid of. Lee Ji-hee looked at the Chimera dragon and sighed enviously. "Damn, I should have chosen a good sponsor. I thought the Duke of Loyalty and Warfare was good." In any case, the ones who didn't work hard were the ones who complained the most. A person who didn't know how excellent the Duke of Loyalty and Warfare was? Once I got back, I should teach her a lesson. I looked around at all the characters and sighed lightly as I organized my thoughts. This isn't good enough for the next scenario. Lee Ji-hee and Gong Pildu's growth was a bit disappointed, but the situation wasn't bad. There was even Yu Sung-ha present. Once we escaped from the Soul Dome, progressing through the subsequent scenarios would be quite easy. "Master, do you have any strong skills that don't require a sponsor? Teach me." "It's impossible for you now." Yu Jung-hyuk had overcome the regression depression to a certain extent. If they continued to follow Yu Jung-hyuk's route, I didn't have to worry about the survival of the characters. Rather, the problem was on my side. A huge fate is hoping for your death. I looked at the fate message that still hadn't disappeared. I had hoped the fate might be fulfilled after experiencing death because of my mother. Naturally, that didn't happen. Maybe the person who would kill me wasn't the significant problem. The important thing was that I couldn't avoid this fate with resurrection. Damn nebula bastards. In the end, the reason this happened was because I changed the scenarios too much. I also received excessive attention after becoming a constellation. This way, the problem would constantly appear, even if I postponed it through resurrection. There shouldn't be another situation like this. It was true just looking at the Eater of Dreams. An outer god descended and the party was nearly destroyed. It didn't matter since I could resurrect, but the other party members couldn't. None of the party members could die. In particular, everything would be in vain if Yu Jung-hyuk died. In the first place, all of this wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for me. The nebula Vetus is waiting for your resurrection. The nebula Papyrus is waiting for your resurrection. The nebula Olympus is waiting for your resurrection. The nebula were still waiting for a chance. I had attracted their attention and was too weak to stand up against them. How could I protect my party members and shake off the nebula? Indeed, that's the only way. Then a system message emerged. All the conditions for resurrection have been met. The attribute 8 lives has been activated. Now it was time to go back. Your body will be resurrected. There was the sound of a breath being taken. The hardest moment to adapt to was the first breath after the resurrection. I woke up, but darkness filled my surroundings. Maybe it was because my party members put me in a coffin. Damn, I didn't know why they put a person who would survive inside a coffin. Were they acting sarcastic? The privilege 8 lives has been activated. The third head of the snake has been sacrificed. The power of the head is fighting spirit. Once again, I received a privilege effect. The benefits of 8 lives were less affected than other high-level privileges, but it was better than nothing. The legs that had been lost in the process of dying were restored to their original state. Now the only thing left was to kick off the coffin lid. Oh, the rumor's real. He really resurrected. As soon as I pushed the lid off the coffin, the people gathered in the area cheered. Maybe rumors of my resurrection had spread because a variety of incarnations were gathered and watching me. Your resurrection has increased your fame among the incarnations. Your status is rising modestly. Finally, Jung Hee-won used Hellflame's ignition to greet me. She used the skill in a way that would make the constellations of Eden enraged. Congratulations on your resurrection. Please don't put me in a coffin next time. Just wait. I'll bring the others. Jung Hee-won left, and the indirect messages of the constellations poured into my ears. The constellation Demon-like Judge of Fire rejoices in your resurrection. The constellation Prisoner of the Golden Headband is congratulating you on your turn. The constellation Goryo's First Sword is praising your courage. The constellation Abyssal Black Flame Dragon is grumbling and putting his hands in his pockets. Many constellations greatly admire your achievements. 90,000 coins have been sponsored. 90,000 coins. Perhaps it was because they weren't able to help me the day before yesterday. It was a bit disappointing, but I understood. Rather, it would be more disappointing if they had helped me confront the nebula. The evaluation of your achievement has been completed. You have earned the semi-myth rated story. The story, One Who Killed an Outer God, has been acquired. Due to the achievement of the story, some outer gods will show hostility towards you. Due to the achievement of the story, some outer gods are curious about you. Due to the achievement of the story, some great old ones are watching you. Your modifier will soon be announced. A semi-myth level story. It was a bit disappointing that I didn't receive a myth-rated story, but it was still satisfactory. I would have received a myth rating if I fought a great old one. However, if I actually encountered a great old one, I would have vanished before I could even have a conversation. You have achieved a new story during the evaluation. The acquisition of a story beyond the existing stories means your status will be re-evaluated. The status will be published in the following scenarios. Your 5th story is in progress. It would be a good start to start as an upper grade, but at this rate, I might be a considerable level among the upper grades. It would be announced in the following scenarios. The timing was okay. The long-awaited 10th main scenario, the 73rd Demon King. This scenario was the last scenario to be carried out in the Soul Dome, and the participants were extremely limited. Only the first and second place in the Dark Castle rankings could challenge the scenario. Of course, they wouldn't challenge it alone. They could team up with up to 4 rankers. Your current Dark Castle ranking is 2nd place. I could take 4 people with me. However, it would be difficult to deal with the enemy that would appear on the next floor with them alone. In other words, I had to get help of the first-ranked person to complete the Dark Castle scenario. Then, who was first place? Kim Dokja. As soon as I thought this, a voice was heard behind me. I started smiling. Indeed, he was first. Yu Jung-hyuk, are you now ranked first? Are you talking about the Dark Castle rankings? Yu Jung-hyuk nodded and instantly replied, I am first. The situation is different from the Seoul rankings. This jerk! He was upset that he wasn't first previously. In any case, he was a stingy guy. I inwardly grumbled while opening my mouth. I need your help. You know how you can take people to the next scenario? If you and I take them, I could see my party members running in the distance. In particular, Shin Yu-sung and Lee Gil-young were fighting each other to be in the lead. I didn't know why they were doing this, since there wasn't a prize for being first. I talked for a while, but Yu Jung-hyuk didn't answer. I felt something strange and saw Yu Jung-hyuk staring at me with serious eyes. Kim Dokja, what is your purpose? Purpose? What is my purpose? If your final goal is to reach the end of all the scenarios... I hesitated for a moment before answering. Well, I guess so. Can you promise me not to give up on that goal, no matter what? What was with this guy all of a sudden? I wanted to turn it into a joke, but I couldn't help feeling serious when watched by Yu Jung-hyuk. Of course I won't give up. By the way, why are you asking? It's nothing. Yu Jung-hyuk looked away from me, towards the party members. His left eyebrow was twitching. I saw the eyebrow wriggling like a caterpillar and sensed something in my heart. Hey, you... I knew because I had read to the end of Ways of Survival. Yu Jung-hyuk's left eyebrow only twitched when he made a serious decision. Once this guy made a serious decision, there was always a high probability of death and regressing. I wanted to use Omniscient Reader's viewpoint on this bastard, but the party members had already arrived. Before I could speak, Yu Jung-hyuk took the lead first. I will announce the participants for the 10th scenario.